It's Way Up with Angela Yee. Jasmine Brand is here with me. And Stratis, I've never pronounced your last name. Morfogen?
Yeah.
Is that
perfect.
right?
Yeah, Morfogen.
Okay, Morfogen.
Yeah.
Stratis Morfogen is here with us. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, he has this book out. It's called Be a Disruptor. And it's streetwise lessons for entrepreneurs from the mob to the mandates. But we all know Stratis, I think, in general, just for being one of the owners of Brooklyn Chop House. Mm-hmm. But what people may not have known is that he also was one of the owners of Philippe's.
Mm-hmm.
Philippe
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I created Philippe in 2005 and I sold it in 2014.
Wow.
Okay, so we got to get into some of these lessons from this book because you've been in the restaurant business since you were 6 years old. Mm-hmm. So talk about that, like a young Stratis, what you were around, that education you had.
See, my dad was an old school Greek and he always brought me around adult situations. I mean, I literally used to go to closings when I was 6, 7, 8 years old when he was buying one of his 14 restaurants. And on the top of it, he also used to go to the Fulton Fish Market. Mm-hmm. The Morfogen family were probably the largest buyers in the Fulton Fish Market from like the 60s to the 80s. And I would, there's a part of my book where I said, my mom was taking my brother and sister to Disney World, and I knew my dad had the truck that week. And he was going to be at the Fulton Fish Market like 3 times that week. I said, Mom, you guys can go. I'm going with Dad because the Fulton Fish Market was my Disney World.
And for people who don't know what the Fulton Fish Market is here in New York, by the way, as soon as you go there, the whole thing smells like fish. It takes a while to get adjusted. But the whole area, I used to be like, this stinks so bad.
You got to take me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have an iPic Theater. That's where the iPic Theater is.
Yeah, well, it actually moved. So the Fulton Fish Market was at South Street Seaport,
Okay.
and about 10 years ago, they moved it up to Uptown.
Okay.
But the old traditional way it is now with the old ships, that's where fish used to come into New York City from like 1880 to 2015.
Now, one of the things that you learn from an early age is discretion. Mm-hmm. Being in the restaurant business, and this is something I didn't think about because from the first time I've met Stratis, and you had another restaurant, it was like an Asian steakhouse before Brooklyn Chop House.
Yeah.
What was that called again?
It was Jade 60. It was on 60th Street.
Yeah, Jade 60. I didn't see that in here.
No, it was only about, didn't even last 9 months. We had a major flood and it just didn't, actually I took the chefs out of there and that's where we did Brooklyn Chop House with Don Poo.
Okay, so I remember that restaurant though, because oddly enough, I've been there many a time. But discretion is really important when it comes to owning a restaurant and being in that business. So you learned that in an early age. Explain that because this is actually a mob story that you guys would love to hear.
Yeah, so my dad had the Chelsea Chop House. One of them was in Howard Beach, and about 6, 7 years old, I was a busboy. And the first lesson of discretion I had was there was a little diminutive guy used to come in with a lot of big guys around him. And they used to go very discreet. My father would drop what he was doing. I was like, wow, who is this guy that my father looks at with such reverence, And then he would go sit him down. Then I hear him tell the managers, get Mr. Gambino his drink. Get Mr. Gambino this.
Wow.
And it was Carlo Gambino, the boss of the Gambino family. And, so here's a little short busboy who's really not shy. I'm walking up to his table and, I start pouring water and I say, hi, Mr. Gambino.
And no one says his name.
You could hear a pin drop, and I felt so weird. Like, what did I do wrong? I'm just being nice. That's what because my father actually calls him sir. So after he puts me down on his knee and he talks to me, he goes, hey, how's school? Like a grandfather. This is like 1973. I was 6. And he goes, how's school? How you doing in school? I'm like, I'm like, I think I'm talking like my grandfather.
Right.
I'm doing really well,
Right.
And he slips a $20 bill in my pocket. And he just says, next time high is enough. Mm-hmm. And I'm like,
okay.
all right. I have no idea what I did, but I'll keep taking the 20s and I'll just say hi. And then, so as I can see my father peeking around the table going, oh my God, Stratis is sitting with the gangsters, and I'm living there for like 10 minutes. And so as I get up, my father goes, come here. What was that about? I said, Dad, I don't know what I did. I just said, hi, Mr. Gambino. He goes, oh, my God, this guy goes so far out of his way to be discreet.
Right.
And here comes this 6-year-old chubby busboy.
Know who you are.
Yeah, knows exactly who you are. And I saw when I left the table, they all started laughing. Like it was so innocently done, but it was very funny. And there was a lot of lessons to learn there because, like I do say in my book, fast forward, 2006 is 2 lessons I learned. I just opened Philippe Chow on my honeymoon in Mykonos. And I get a call for, I think it was like the Inquirer or something. They said, we're offering you $1 million for the tape. And I said, what tape? And it's like literally the 5th week that I opened Philippe Chow. It was like February or March of 2006. I said, what tape? And they're like, there's a tape, and they mentioned the names, which I'm not going to mention. And they were having sex in your restaurant.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm
Philippe's
like,
is lit.
so I'm like, so I call my managers right away, and I'm like, what happened? I got to be careful because I could easily say the names. So a hip hop mogul and a Hollywood starlet were having sex in one of the private rooms at Philippe, and they've noticed that we had security cameras. And I said to the manager, Eddie, get on the security cameras and tell me what you see. He's like, oh, Mr. Morfogen, I can't look at this. This is serious.
I can't stop looking.
Yeah. He's like, yes, so-and-so reserved the whole room last night to have a private dinner on a date, two very big names. And I'm like, Eddie, do me a favor before I even get an inch of temptation, delete it off the server.
Right.
Get rid of it, because that's not how I do business.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. I don't care if it's $1 million or $5 million. Get rid of it. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, get rid of it. And we deleted it.
Yeah.
And it was over.
Because if you would have leaked that out, that's something that could destroy your
Correct.
business.
And that's not the way I've become successful.
Right.
On the other hand, I've always protected people's privacy, especially well-known people. They come to me with trust. And in turn, I think I've done pretty well in 25 years respecting, from VIPs to celebrities to presidents to you name it.
Because I know if I go into see Stratis at a restaurant, I don't have to worry about anybody knowing who I was with in case I'm out here creeping or something. Not that I would ever.
And let's thank Carlo Gambino for that, because he told me about discretion
early on.
Yeah. So take away the hip hop and the Hollywood side. In 2009, John Paulson, I go downstairs and say hi to Mr. Paulson. He's a big hedge fund takeover king.
I saw that in the book.
Yeah, and I go down and say, hey, Mr. Paulson, I see down the PowerPoint it says the hostile takeover of Bank of America. So
That's very slick of him, by the way, in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's they didn't want any servers in there. They just wanted the food to be presented. Everybody leave the room because they wanted to do a PowerPoint on how they're going to take over Bank of America tomorrow, and the world doesn't know it yet.
Right.
But I know it, and if I was corrupt, I'd be buying options and whatever. But that's not how I roll.
Right.
And I shook his hand. I looked up at the thing. I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, and you could see that he did not want me in there to say hello at that moment.
Right.
But it never left the room. And I've always taken a lot of, that's really been a thing that I've really gone out of my way to protect privacy.
Now, another thing, because this is streetwise lessons from entrepreneurs, from the mob to the mandates, right? This book that you have about being a disruptor.
Yep.
You also talk about your relationship with so many people from the mob are coming to your restaurants, and how some of them actually might be more stand-up than people who work, say, for the government or in politics.
Yeah, so in 1993, well, put it this way. So now I know most of the mob because they run the Fulton Fish Market, and they're like extended family to me. I mean, I never looked at them as like they were criminals. It was like, hey, how's your dad? How you doing? Then I'd be keeping my hands warm at the fire in the garbage cans next to underbosses and capos of different parts of the Genovese family and what have you. And they were like extended family as I was growing up 6, 10, 11, 15. So here I go. I opened up my restaurant in 93 called Gotham Diner. And, at that time, I became very close with like Ralph Coppola, who was the underboss of the Genovese family. And these guys were friends of mine, Bucky Carbone, and they were just customers and they paid their bill. And,
nice.
it was like a mutual, customers, friends.
They didn't ever make you pay them. You said nothing like that.
Nothing like it. They were my friends. And they knew that, my family had some roots going back to the market. And it was always like a mutual respect. And then, so in 93, 94, it became like the hottest place, not just as a diner. We had Mark Ronson spinning. We had, his sister spinning. I mean, it became like the who's who of that crowd, but they were not famous at the time.
Right.
But it just became a huge nightlife business. Lights came down, the music went up. By the time we were finished at 5 a.m, we were getting ready for a typical diner breakfast.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Some people
so it was
going
like
to work.
really going 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then at the time I opened Rouge nightclub. So
That's where he turned away, by the way, Madonna and Tupac.
The
one
nerve
night.
of you.
we
need to hear that story after.
Okay.
Continue this story and let's go back. Let's circle back to that.
So getting back to my book. My book is a story of inspiration and a journey of an entrepreneur. But it's not the typical book that you would read where it's all based on analytics. If you do 2 out of 3 do this, you'll get that. If you get 1% of the market, well, you're worth a billionaire. No, it's basically like, I could curse you, right? I fucked up, and this is what I did to fix it. So all my analytics are supported by true life stories.
And lessons.
Yeah, and that's why it's hit a nerve with a lot of people, because I actually beat myself up in the book quite a bit, because I want people to learn from my mistakes and how I handled it. Because I'm tired of reading business books where, you know, it's just like, I'm successful, and
this is how I did it.
It's a check mark.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
my story is a ball of yarn. You know, this is my success story.
And it's important because there were mistakes that you made along the way. There was a time you bought a strip mall.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I never would imagine that anybody would do something like this. But the guy set up some like fake businesses, so it looked like they were in operation, but you didn't do your due diligence.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a lesson.
Yeah, it was. It was a lesson.
Expensive one.
So what happened
guessing.
well, let me go back a little bit. So when I opened up Gotham Diner, to answer the question regarding how I got involved with organized crime.
Not like that.
Yeah. So what happened was so I became friends with the heads of the Genovese family, and they were my friends. But simultaneously, I had John Gotti Jr. beating up my managers, his crew, beating up my managers, shaking down my store, and then they finally came to see me. They wanted $10,000 a month, or they were going to break all my windows. So I told them to fuck off. You know, it was actually well known in the industry because everybody was paying them. They owned the whole Upper East Side. I told them, fuck off. I said, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not paying you. So every night they're throwing black paint all over my windows. And every morning I would clean it up. So Ralph Coppola and those guys saw me one day clean that. What is this? What's going on here? I said, well, John Gotti Jr. and those guys want a payment, and I'm not doing it. And this is what I get. Sit tight. So literally like 6 hours later, they said, go to Ferrier Bistro on 65th and Madison, which I knew was a Gambino hangout. Go there 11 o'clock tonight. We're gonna squash this thing. So I get there at 11 o'clock at night, and you could see all the suits in the back, which were all the Gambino heads. And I know these guys, and they were always really good to me. I just hate the John Gotti Jr. and those guys. They're all a bunch of thugs. And I had no problem saying it in the 90s, and I still can say it today.
It's in the book.
Yeah, not afraid. And
Clearly.
And so what happened was I get to this meeting, and it's like something out of like Goodfellas had just come out, and I'm like, wow, this is like my life now. I'm like at a sit down, and then Ralph's like, listen, he's my nephew, he's around us. Tell Junior next time he comes near him, come correct, or we're gonna have a problem. And I was like, oh my God, because I know the guys he's talking to are like the bosses of the Gambino family. I'm like, and my guys walk around with like a Yankee bomber jacket and old cars. And these guys have chauffeurs with $5,000 suits.
Right.
So in my head, I'm like, they're the big guys and my guys are not.
Right.
But I learned very quickly that the discreet ones that walked around with a bomber jacket and a pair of jeans and a 1978 Cadillac and not a driver and like, you know, wearing a hoodie on and whatever, these guys ruled the country, maybe the world. And all of a sudden I saw the respect that the suits, the $5,000 suits were giving the $50 jeans. They were saying, hey, you know, we like this Greek here. We're good. We're going to squash this, Ralph. We apologize.
The Golden
We're
Greek.
sorry. Yeah.
So what happened?
So much. I mean, I love it.
What happened after the meeting?
So after the meeting, as we were leaving, so the guy who actually beat up Noel Ashman was my head of promotions. Noel Ashman, you guys might know him. He does a lot of clubs for the last 30 years. The guy who beat him up actually was having dinner with his girlfriend at the same restaurant. So I said, Ralph, that's the guy. That's the guy that gave Noel a bloody face. Oh. He's like, okay, watch. He goes up to him and he grabs him like a cat. And he says, you see this kid? He's with us. And then he goes, Ralphie, I didn't know. I'm here. I didn't know. And I said, the next time you walk into that restaurant, which you're going to do this week, you're going to pay. And you're going to bring all your friends in. You're going to pay. And you're going to support that restaurant. And if you ever go there again and cause any trouble, I promise you, the next time we see each other, I'm going to have you crawl on the floor like the dog that you are. And I'm going to kick you in the ass until you bark in front of all these people.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like,
very descriptive.
And that's exactly what happened. I'm like, all of a sudden, I think I grew 6 inches as I'm walking out the door. I'm like, wow, I got friends like this. So as I'm talking to my dad the next day about what happened, he's like, well, you may have just exchanged one devil for the other. And
I would be thinking that too.
Yeah, and the truth be told, it's not true.
Right.
No, these guys.
Because that's what you would think from watching movies.
Like, we're protecting you now, you got to pay us.
Right.
These guys continued to come to Gotham Diner, and basically they continued to pay. And they would never hear of it. I think the first time I tried to take the check, it's like, no, put the check down. And they always pay with a credit card, which is really funny. You think mobs always paying with cash.
I would think cash.
No, all credit card. They want
These movies are fooling us.
Yeah. They wanted a paper trail that, you know what? We just like this kid, and there's nothing attached.
Right.
And everything stopped. And all of a sudden, I had like friends coming to me, yo, bro, I got a problem with like the Hells Angels. Can you like help me out here? And all of a sudden, through the industry, the word was always around saying, hey, is this guy mobbed up?
Right.
And I mean, on one hand, I'm not, but on the other hand, these guys love me.
Yeah.
Right.
And I do love them back.
Yeah.
And the truth be told is they've been saying for the last 20 years, write a book, because no one's ever heard that story where you could actually be friends with honorable people that are the heads of the most powerful family in the world. And these guys love me and I love them. And they call me uncle and I call them uncle. They call me nephew, but they protected me.
Right.
And then what happened
without
was,
expecting anything in return.
and they never asked me for anything except, well, not except, but I actually came to them through Patty Stisso was their lawyer. Mm-hmm. And Patty gave me, full permission to discuss it because.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I was going to ask you that next because I know how private this can be. And so.
Well, the truth is the guys I talk about, unfortunately, no longer with us. Yeah. So with that said, I said, Patty, I found this place called Corolla's on 54th between Park and Lex. This is June '94. I said, I want to make a nightclub. And I have the name. It's called Rouge. And, and so Patty put up the money, but I wasn't stupid. He was the lawyer for the Genoveses.
Right.
So I knew that. But he gave it to me in a check. Mm-hmm. Me and him were on the liquor license.
Wasn't cash.
Nothing was cash. So I was very careful. I knew where it was coming from, but as long as I got a check,
right?
When you get a liquor license, they want to know where the funds where did they generate?
They
from?
definitely check into everything.
Correct.
You can't have like a criminal record. You can't have a DUI, which is a great lesson.
I like that.
I don't know if you read that story about
you
my
learned that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's important not to drink and drive. Your father said that to you when you were 15.
Yeah,
you were drinking at 15.
Oh yeah. My story when I was 15 is I snuck out of my house before 11th grade. I met Peter Stringfellow on a plane from Greece to New York, and he's like, I'm opening my new club, Stringfellows. It's like 1983 or something. And I'm like, oh my God. He thinks I'm 25 or so because I'm kind of worldly.
Right.
And he's like,
you said I'm kind of worldly.
I guess, I don't know, because
he's on a plane.
It's September. All my friends are in school and I'm not.
Got it.
I always missed the first 2 weeks of school. That's why I graduated 363 out of 365.
You had a great conversation. I'm sure you guys talked the whole
flight. Yeah, talking about restaurants and all that. And he's like, I need you to come to my opening tomorrow night. So my mom thought I was sleeping. Snuck out my back side of my house. I took the Long Island Railroad. I got to Penn Station. I took the subway. And I went to the opening of Stringfellows, and that was my world. That was my hook into New York nightlife.
Okay.
Because all I knew was an Irish bar in Garden City, Long Island. I didn't know. And part of the story I say, when Peter brought me in, smoke machines and the dancers, and it wasn't a strip club. It was a real nightclub, Stringfellows.
Okay. It
turned later into a strip club. This was just a hot nightclub in New York. And I was like, wow, this is what hospitality. My father never showed me this.
Right.
And I'm the type of kid where we were paying $3 a drink in Garden City. And then I get here and it's $20 for a vodka cranberry in 1983.
Oh my gosh!
And most kids
like $100 today.
Yeah. Most kids would have been like, "That's a ripoff."
Right.
Me, I had a smile from ear to ear, like this is a
possibility.
possibility.
Yeah, this markup is insane.
My dad didn't teach me this.
Yeah.
And to your point, you said your dad didn't teach you this. What was that like for you? Because your father was a successful business owner, right? But he also was more old school in his way of thinking. And sometimes somebody like you who's been in the business, like you said, since you were 6 years old, but now you're introducing things that may have been foreign to him. Mm-hmm. So how was it for you just trying to convince him to try something new or to mark up the price on this or to step up the products that you guys were selling, the food that you were selling?
Yeah. So when he bought Hilltop Diner in 1989 at 164th and Union Turnpike in Queens, in Flushing, Queens, he wanted me to join him as a partner now. And I had an amusement park out in Long Island. I was on my own. I was really doing well. And I said, Dad, if I'm going to go into a diner in Queens, because right now, by that time, I'm in Manhattan. I don't even know what Garden City is. I have an apartment in Manhattan. I'm living in Manhattan. I'm out in Manhattan. Telling me to go do a diner in Queens is not exciting to me. But I said what could be really fun is disrupting the diner model. I said if we do it the way I want, I'll respect what you're doing with the sandwiches and the eggs and the breakfast and all that, because that's the core business, and I think it's a great part of the industry of being a diner. But I said, but I want to bring a 3-star New York Times chef in. And I want him to focus on the fish, the pasta, vegetables, and salads. And he's like, hell no, he argued with me. And then finally he gave in. And what we did was basically I brought Gabrielle Moran, who was a chef at Van Dam, which had just gotten 3 stars. And I convinced him to come to a Greek diner with me in Queens. So the diner opened up in 1989, 90. And it was crazy. It was the only diner in the industry ever that you needed a reservation only on Friday and Saturday night.
Can you imagine that?
In
And
a
these
diner.
are things that a
In a
person
diner.
wouldn't think, but that's why being a disruptor is really important. To your point, you know, the restaurant business, people talk all the time about statistically restaurants fail a lot.
Yeah.
Right? And you've had things that haven't worked out. So where
Absolutely.
do you find the resilience to say, let me pick myself back up? Was there ever a time that you were like, I'm out?
Yeah, so it's a great question because when you disrupt things, you have to be a little bit more thick skin for failure because you're going to fail more. But when you hit it, you're not going to hit a single or a double. You're going to hit a grand slam. So that's the difference when you disrupt things. So when I identify something like I did the Greek diner, I identify it, and I've been doing this since a kid. I deconstruct it, I reimagine it, and I rebuild it in my way. And again, it could be the odds of failure are much higher that I'm going to fail. But when you do hit it, there's no base hits here. It hits big. And so with the diner and with a bunch of things I did, and that's why I really wanted to write the book, it speaks to all different age groups. It speaks to people that want to be entrepreneurs, but I'm telling them, don't look at things as status quo. Look at things and do it your way. But again, the flip side is you're going to have to accept failure because it's going to have to. There's no path to success without failure.
How do you define disruptor? How do you define it?
Looking at a conventional opportunity or a business, deconstruct it, reimagine it, and do it your way.
Okay.
And people will tell you you're crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that it'll
The more
never
crazies,
work.
the better.
The more crazy, the better.
Yeah. So if you hear you're crazy, you know you're on the right path.
Now let's get back to this Tupac and
That's
Madonna
exactly
story.
what I was about
I
to
know
ask.
we have to do that. So you open up Rouge nightclub.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody's coming here. It's the hot spot.
Yeah. No,
And
this is actually the night before the grand opening, Julia Koch came to me and said, I want to throw a birthday party for my husband, David Koch, who is the energy conglomerate, and, multi-billionaire family. And I said, wow, that's a great way to open it. Because the only celebrity I knew at the time was Susan Lucci, because I grew up in Garden City. I didn't
Shout
know.
out to Susan Lucci.
Yeah, actually, I saw her last week. She looks amazing. I saw her last week in Garden City. But she's like the only celebrity I ever knew. I didn't know what a celebrity was. And actually, the young kids that I met at Gotham Diner, they weren't celebrities yet. David Blaine's and all this. They were all working for me for $100 a night, but they weren't celebrities.
David Blaine.
Wow.
So here I opened up the nightclub, and I had told my big fat Greek wedding. That's my family. I said, doesn't matter who comes to the door tonight. No one's coming in. This is Thursday night. They could all come on Friday. Thursday, no one's coming in. And it's a black tie event. You've got like Henry Kissinger, Murdoch's. It's who's who of Fifth Avenue and Park Avenue for David Koch's birthday party. And that's a pretty cool way to open your club, especially when you're on 54th and Park. So putting that, my Nextel, this is before the internet. The Nextel going up. And I'm like, what? They're like, you have to come to the front. There's someone trying to get in. And I said, if they're not on the list, they're not coming in. They're like, you got to you're making this call. I'm not making the call. That's what my security said.
Okay.
And this time I'm so intoxicated at this time. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm thinking it's like, maybe one of my cousins pretending to be a countess or something. So I get to the front and there's, a black guy there, gold chains, looking pretty cool, but not for tonight. There's a little blonde girl with like a bomber jacket and a Yankee hat. And I look at them and I go, fuck no. And I turn on, they're like, Stratis. I'm like, no, I don't want to hear it. There's all like black tie in there. No, I don't want to hear. I don't care who they are. And I walked away. So the next morning here around 7 a.m., I saw that David Koch's party got some press. I was like, all right, cool. They're like, bro, look at page 2. And I'm like, what? And I'm, before the internet.
Right.
Got to put the jacket over the pajamas.
So go
run
get it.
down
Go
the
get the
street.
paper.
Go
Get
get
the
the New York
paper.
Post.
Wow.
Open it up, and it says a picture of me going like this, and it says "New Kid on the Block rejects Tupac and Madonna."
And going like this is him saying like cutting
No
his
way.
neck.
Yeah,
Like,
no way.
Never.
Yeah. So
Wow.
But that's not bad press.
No,
That-
so I didn't
It makes it
understand.
really exclusive.
Yeah, and I'm not. I'm like Forrest Gump of clubs right now. I was not cool at all. It was a total mistake, and I had thought, oh my God, I just ruined my club. I don't understand press at the time. I'm 25 years old, 26 years old. I'm like, oh man, I killed my business. This is crazy. But obviously, you know what happened, as we know what that does, is they were like, who is this guy? Who is this guy, Stratis? I know, da-da-da. Then Nile Rodgers calls me a week later, and he's like, bro, she wants to come back. Are we cool? And meanwhile, I have to put it on mute, because I have an office of like 6 people, and I'm like, fuck. I'm not worthy. This is crazy. So I'm like, Niall, as long as she dresses right, we're cool.
The nerve for this guy. As long as he dresses right.
We're cool.
Where was you
I'm
at,
like,
Madonna?
I'm like this. And so, doesn't end, right? Forrest Gump. She comes with Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell now is playing for the Houston Rockets, and the Houston Rockets are playing the Knicks. This is June '94. She comes in, she's gracious. She's like, I'm sorry. I go, no. I'm like, sorry. I'm like, no, sit down, whatever. I got her champagne, closed the curtain. They were having like a little dinner, a little, rendezvous, whatever. I thought it was over. We're all friends. Everything is good. I saved my club. But meanwhile, the buzz on the street was, wow, we got to go to this place. I mean,
of course.
How do you reject like the hottest couple of the moment? So someone, again, the Nextel starts going off, put on E.T. on Channel 2, I think it was, CBS. I'm like, oh, what did I do now? I put on 2, and Sam Cassell's wife is throwing all his clothes out of the second-story window.
There you go.
Because
Good job,
pictures
Stratis.
came out with Madonna leaving with Sam Cassell from my nightclub.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's how I became the Forrest Gump of nightclubs.
I know you have a book, but I feel like you need a movie.
We need a series.
So exciting enough.
Definitely, yeah, we need a
Oh,
limited.
here it comes. Hold on.
Exciting enough.
Okay.
There are 2 options. Thanks.
Okay, is it like a series or a movie?
Yeah, that's what they're discussing now. Like, is it a Sex and the City type thing for business and street smarts? Or is it like, a docuseries?
And Sex in the City, speaking of which, there's a connection there. I'm not going to give it all away, though, because you guys do have to get the book to even see. This is not even the tip of the iceberg of all the things that you'll learn and be a disruptor. But I do want to bring it to present day now, right? Because there's a lot of history lessons about you, how you got where you are. The Philippe story, to me, is amazing, too, because it's kind of out of pettiness. Some things happen. Yeah, out of anger. And then it's a long, drawn-out process that costs a lot of money with lawsuits and everything. And there's some lessons to be learned from that, too.
Oh, yeah. So, how Philippe Chow and I got together was, my wife at the time was, the accessories director at Vogue magazine. So, all the after parties for the Met Ball were at Philippe Chow. I had Karl Lagerfeld hosting. It was unbelievable because I knew I had music and sports. I knew I had socials. And then my wife just finished it off by bringing in the fashion world. So I had like a perfect storm for Philippe Chow, and that's why Philippe did so well. But how I got Philippe was interesting. So Anna Wintour would always have her parties at Mr. Chow. And at the table, would be David Bowie, Rupert Murdoch, Bono. It was like everybody that was on my wall as a poster are sitting next to me, and I know them on a first-name basis. And I'm thinking, God, this is like heaven, heaven. And basically with that, there was another. Then the next day I went there. I was with some Greek friends, trying to put it back in chronological. And Brian comes to me. I'll mention his name because he's in the book. The manager of Mr. Chow. I said, Brian, I got some friends from Greece. I said, can you just show me the menu? He's like, next time you ask for the menu, I'm going to ask you to leave.
Oh.
I'm like, wow, that's not the way I was brought up in hospitality.
Okay,
and would
service.
would you have said that if I was sitting next to Grace Coddington, Anna Wintour, Philippe Fino, and all the Vogue girls?
Right.
You wouldn't talk like that to me.
Right.
I said, you know what? Fuck off. And and maybe I'll repeat it to them and see if the next party will be here. But I got really mad.
Yeah.
But as I got mad, I pulled out my business card. I said, busboy, come here. With a $20 bill wrapped in it. I said, give this to the chef. I was so angry.
The head chef.
Yeah. So, and that was part of when the lawsuit, when he said that Philippe Chow was a chopper. I said, well, the busboy disagrees with you.
Right.
Because I said, give it to the chef. I didn't say give it to the chopper. So anyway, gave him the card. And the next day I get a call from Philippe and he says to me, hey, what do you want? I said, can we just meet at Vion Diner on 86th Street and can we just, talk? I said, I've got this spot on 60th Street. And you know what? Everything you guys are doing at Mr. Chow basically is so anti-customer service. I don't like the idea of not getting a menu. I don't like every time I go there, I eat the same thing and it's always different pricing. I hate it.
Okay.
I love your food, but I hate the guest experience.
Right.
So I offered him 20% above his salary. I offered him 10% equity. And he put his coat on. He said, thank you, but no thank you. And he's walking out the door. I said, why are you walking out? And he goes, I've been offered that before. I said, sit down. And in the story I write, like Tommy Mottola taught me a story when he's trying to sign an artist and they're run by a parent. He sends a Ferrari to the mother with the contract wrapped up in it. Sign the contract and the Ferrari's for the mother.
It.
Right.
So I said to him, all right, let me think of that one. I said, how about we go to the Porsche dealer tomorrow? You pick out any Porsche you want. That's a signing bonus. And in broken Chinese, I hope no one gets offended. Like, show me Porsche, I show you partner. And I'm like, let's go.
That's crazy.
And so
Wow.
we went to South Shore Porsche in Roslyn.
What color Porsche did he get?
He got a black Cayenne.
Okay.
I was very smart. I called up Evan. I said, Evan, how many cars have I gotten from there in the last 20 years? He's like, a lot. I said, okay, get rid of every GT and every turbo out of that showroom, or we're done.
He's
It'll
getting
be
a
the
car,
last
yeah,
car.
yeah.
It'll be the last car.
What if he would have said, I want 20% equity?
I wouldn't have done it.
Okay.
So was 10 your cap?
Yeah,
Okay.
10 was my cap.
Because usually we assume that people don't go in with their cap. We
Right.
usually assume that people
No,
come in
I
low.
wanted to do a quick deal. I knew 10% was fair. But you know what? I don't think 20% would have done it either. It wasn't tangible. 20%, 20%, you know, of nothing
He wanted
could be
to
nothing.
drive something right now.
We don't know what we got there.
Right.
And that location has failed 7 times in 15 years.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
We don't really have a good track record here for that spot. And then when, you know, when I said you could have a brand new car, oh, wait a second. He went from making $60,000 a year to $85,000 a year, and 10% equity,
Got equity too.
and a brand new car.
And you can
Porsche.
say, I'm an owner. That's something, you know.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
let's talk
Well, he
about...
got a lot of those offers before. It was the car that closed the deal, and the joke
car
was,
closed the deal.
you know, his cut was like $20,000-$30,000 a month, and then I would put in parentheses $661 because I leased it. You know, I leased the car. So
Oh
for
my
$661 that I'm paying, I would put in parentheses as a joke that $661 got you the $30,000-$40,000 a month.
That's hilarious.
What do you attribute the success to Brooklyn Chop House to? Because you've opened now in New York. You have 2 locations, one in Times Square, which is not an easy place to open a business. The financial district where when you guys first opened, I don't know what other restaurants are even right there, but the success that you guys have achieved, what would you say? Because I know you talk about location, and we all know when you have a brick and mortar, location is super important. I wouldn't have probably bet on something
You're very smart.
right there either, but what do you attribute that to?
Brooklyn Chop House Fide is the worst location for a restaurant in New York City.
Why do you say that?
It just you can't even get to it. You got to go around the bridge. You got to go around Pace University. You got to go around. It's really hard to get to.
Yeah.
And so how this came about was Robert Don Poo Cummings, who's my friend for 20 years.
Don Poo, we love you, Don Poo.
He's my brother. And he said, listen, I'm thinking about doing a Caribbean restaurant. I and at this point, like I say it in my book, I'm really down now. I've lost everything. I had a really bad falling out with the guys who stole Philippe Chow. And I write about it in my book, and not to really go too deep into that.
You guys got to buy the book because okay.
It tells you the inner happenings of what really happened there, and it was borderline criminal. And you know, I was down. You know, I was really depressed. I was really out, and again, I don't hide from it in the book because there's no way to be an entrepreneur and not have your roller coaster.
Right.
You know, and with that, Robert says, you know, Pooh says, hey, I need the old Stratis back. I need the old Stratis back. I need the old Stratis back. The one that got me excited about Philippe. I said, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing a Caribbean restaurant in Fide. I just want you to help me. I do a lot of fast food restaurants.
He does the IHOP, yeah.
And so I went there, and at the last couple of years, I've been writing a business plan. What about if Philippe Chow met Peter Luger, and we married them together? Because every time I go to a great steakhouse where my wife doesn't eat meat,
that's me.
She feels like a stepchild.
Yeah, that's how I am.
Yeah. So I said, wouldn't it be cool if we did LSD? And I mentioned it like LSD. Were you promoting drugs? I said, no, salt and pepper, ginger, garlic, lobster.
Which is good.
Married with, Chow style. Married with dry aged porterhouse steak with some sea salt. Nothing Chinese about it.
And then dumplings.
Married with Peking duck. And dumplings. And I said, wouldn't it be cool? That's the ultimate surf and turf, where someone who doesn't like beef is not feeling like a stepchild.
Right, yeah.
And they're having like sea bass with black bean and garlic. They're having 9 season prawns. They're having salt and pepper lobster. And then you marry that as lobster, steak, and duck. It got hashtagged so many times in 2 years. I got a letter from Instagram that I'm being investigated for promoting narcotics.
Wow.
So hashtag LSD to this day has been removed from Instagram.
That's hilarious.
Because it was hashtag over 4,000 times. So then I said, and then I give a lot of credit to Pooh and our other partner, Dave Thomas, because they were already in getting the kitchen equipment for this Caribbean restaurant. They love the concept so much of like dim sum and chops, of marrying Chow and Luger together. Because I had all the chefs, they're all loyal to me.
Right.
They all left Philippe and came with me right away.
Okay.
And then I give them a lot of credit because they were already, they had to return equipment that they already paid for to jump into something that, now you guys look at Brooklyn Chop House as a pretty big brand, but it was an unknown at the time. And those guys were like, I see it. I love it. And what about the name? I'm like, it's Chop House because I owe that to my dad. My dad owned the Chelsea Chop House. And that was like kind of a tribute to my dad. He had just passed. And I'm like, what's the name? City Hall Chop House, Spruce Street Chop House. And we're sitting out a big bay window and I'm looking at the Brooklyn Bridge. And I'm like, I got it. The Bridge Chop House. And then Pooh's like, no. I'm like,
The bridge.
I'm like, oh, wait a second. Brooklyn Chop House. Oh, let me go on Google. Let me go on cheapdomain.com.
Right. Yeah,
let me
that's what
find
you
out
have
if
to do.
Brooklyn Chop House is even available, because chop houses, if you know the history of it, were originated in Brooklyn.
I didn't know that either.
1850 by the Irish.
Oh, well,
It was-
then that makes even more sense.
Yeah, because that was the whole idea, is let's do a tribute to the Irish, because the Irish brought the first chop houses to America in the 1850s, and it was mutton chop, lamb chops, what have you. And the Irish brought the first culinary wave to New York, and it was all in Williamsburg area, the last one being Peter Luger.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, that's it, Brooklyn Chop House. I go on cheap domain, $9. I'm ripping my pants to get the credit card. I put the credit card, and I'm like, this is crazy. That's the name. I'm not a very spiritual guy.
It's in Brooklyn. I just want to let y'all know it's in Manhattan.
I thought the first time
downtown.
you took me there, I was like, "Are we going to Brooklyn?" You were like, "No."
It's
Yeah,
on-
no, I
so
take
it's-
everybody there.
It's on the Manhattan side of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So now it's when you guys first opened. How long did it take?
It was great. So I mean, we opened up, and our projections were like $4 million a year, because it's a really tough location. It was a Denny's,
Right.
Really bad location.
Wait a minute, Brooklyn Chop House was a Denny's?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I told Mayor Adams, fast forward. I said, Pooh and I and David Thomas, we need the key to the city. He's like, for what? I got rid of the only Buffalo Wild Wings and the only Denny's in Manhattan, because the Times Square location was a Buffalo Wild Wings. So I said, I get the key to the city with Pooh and David, because we got rid of those two brands out of New York and replaced it with Brooklyn Chop House.
That's funny.
And so yeah, the location was really, really tough, but all of a sudden it clicked.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Wait a second. Remember, Chop House menu hasn't been changed for 150 years. Now, all of a sudden, we're disrupting the whole Chop House menu. It's not cream of spinach, baked potato, shrimp cocktail, with a steak and a piece of fish and parsley. It's salt and pepper lobster, Peking duck, chicken sautés.
And
then
an extensive dumpling
Yeah,
menu.
so I love how you think right before I say, you're so good, Angel. So then we got down to the appetizers. I said, let's do a bacon cheeseburger. No. Let's do a bacon cheeseburger shiomai, which is a form of dumpling. I said, let's do a pastrami, a Reuben, peanut butter and jelly.
Edamame.
Yeah. And then when it gets to the soup, let's do lobster bisque or French onion soup dumplings. And I'm like, if we're going to see this through, there's two things are going to happen here. We're going to confuse the fuck out of everybody. It's going to be a monumental failure, which I'm okay taking that shot,
Right.
or it's going to be a grand slam.
Right,
Like I
yeah,
said
yeah.
before, it's grand slam or failure. There's no double here.
No in between.
And thank God, wood.
You knock on some wood.
Grand slam. And then, so we had a great business. Everything was going great. And it was funny. I went to my doctor in January 2020. I said, my kids are healthy, my marriage is good, and my business is thriving. It's got to be my health. I've never had a trifecta. Anytime, I never have all three working at the same
That's
time.
how we get so nervous.
Yeah.
It's going
Yeah.
too good.
I'm like,
now.
it's going too good here.
Right.
I'm the paranoia is starting to kick in. I've never
Yeah.
had it all.
Yeah.
I've had a great business with a terrible marriage. I've had a great marriage, terrible business. I've never had it all.
So what was it? What was the third thing?
So I get to the doctor and he checks me out and he says, Stratis, everything's fine. And this is January 2020. And I said, he's like, Stratis, you've been through a lot. Just enjoy it. I said, Doc, something's gonna happen.
March.
COVID.
COVID.
So COVID's your fault.
COVID,
Yeah.
yeah, COVID's my
We
fault.
blame you for COVID.
So COVID hit, and we went from $10 million business to basically one, and that. But again, we found something good out of it. So
Yeah, I
we did.
remember I spoke to you during that time, and you were doing a lot to help people who were frontline workers at that time and making sure that they were actually getting food.
Yeah, so
because-
I went, the first thing we started doing in March 2020 when they closed us down and everybody really, the morale was so low, I said, well, we're going to do something good here. I want to explain to my grandkids one day that we help the healthcare heroes. I never said workers, heroes. They could be janitorial, maid, doesn't have to just be doctors and nurses.
Right.
Janitorial, maid first. Doctors, nurses, these are our heroes.
Yes.
Because they're cleaning up, they're taking care of us while we're dying,
risking
dead,
themselves, too.
sick,
Yeah.
and they're going back to their families. That is
Right.
basically a human like no other. I mean, that to me. So I started bringing food there incognito, lobster dinners, steak dinners, and just dropping it off. Then they started picking it up. And all of a sudden they started putting on Instagram, Brooklyn Chop House, thank you. And it started getting on and on, but I didn't do it because I don't think charity should be exposed like that.
Okay.
But they were doing it. And it was nice because it actually started to lift our morale.
Yeah.
And then the New York Post got onto it and they said, hero of the day, Brooklyn Chop House. At that point, we were up to about 900 meals complimentary in the month of March. Remember, this just started.
Right.
And when that happened, all the big boys called me, like Cisco Foods,
Okay.
Junior's Cheesecake, Voss Water. They all, after 5 Coffee, they all started calling me and saying, hey, you have a GoFundMe page? I said, I don't believe in GoFundMe
Right.
because honestly, we're all hurting. But if you want, donate stuff to me and I can make this thing bigger. It got so big, Jasmine. I basically had, we got this in 6 months to 9,000 meals complimentary.
That's insane.
It got 19 hospitals, 3 police departments, and even a nursing home on Mother's Day.
Oh, wow.
And I got to tell you, the morale in my restaurant was so high. You know, we were all felt so good. And these are the people that could have went on unemployment. And we're going to lead to the mandates. Unemployment. And they didn't take unemployment. And they worked for us for about the same that they would have collected on unemployment. You know, because there was no tips.
Right.
You know, we just had them on salaries.
Yeah.
And, you know, they could have made a little bit more, they could have made a little bit less on unemployment and stay home.
Yeah, not do anything.
But meanwhile, they're going to hospitals and they're seeing body bags and they're seeing all this.
Yeah.
Fast forward 2 years when Governor Hochul said, you know, jab for a job, I said, fuck you, arrest me. I went on Fox News. I went on New York Post. I said, fuck you, arrest me. I am not firing one of my staff members for a jab for a job. And thank God I'm going to be on the right side of history because they threatened me so many different ways. I had every city agency coming down on me, every state agency coming down on me. When I told Governor Hochul to arrest me, they were sending everyone. I called Cuomo, Comrade Cuomo, and Mayor de Blasio instead of de Blasio. I was doing this on air.
Right.
I didn't care. I said, you guys want to fight? Let's fight. Let's fight. And it comes down to the book. I've been partners with the mob. I dealt with these politicians. I had the CEOs of the top 3 banks in the world that bought into Philippe, who are the most corrupt guys you'll ever meet. Criminals, half of them went to jail already. And I got to tell you, if I had to pick those 3 groups again, I'd be partners with the mob because they're the most loyal,
Right.
you know, respectful. And you know what you got.
And you like a good fight too.
I love a good fight.
Yeah, you do.
But I love, you know what it is?
Adrenaline going.
So I love fighting for the one that doesn't have my platform.
Okay.
Brooklyn Chop House was doing okay during COVID. We had the outdoor decks. You know, even some of the partners were saying, hey, do we need this fight? We're doing good. Let's just stay under the radar. I said, no, I'm going to fight for the ones that are being shut down. They're the ones that are being told to open and close, open and close. Like restaurants, not a light switch.
Yeah.
It takes weeks and weeks to prepare to open a restaurant.
Is it during this time that with technology you've also opened Brooklyn Dumpling Shop?
Yeah.
Right. So I just want you to, because I know we've done a lot and I know we're running out of time, but talk about Brooklyn Dumpling Shop and technology and how you feel like that is going to be something that's a game changer also, and it has been already.
Yeah, so Brooklyn Dumpling Shop, because the dumplings were so successful at Chop House, this is before COVID, we figured let's do a fast food, fast casual version of dumplings because dumplings have never been explained. You know, I mean, burgers, pizza, you know, fries, cookies, tacos. Everything has been so over-explained. But who doesn't love a dumpling? When I introduced new foods to my kids, when they didn't like fish and vegetables, I'd go take some fish, vegetables, pan fry each side, give them a dumpling, and they're eating fish and vegetables.
Right.
It's like the greatest product to eat. It's like a 2-ounce sandwich.
Right.
That's how I look at it. So I said, let's do Brooklyn Dumpling Shop, an offshoot of Brooklyn Chop House, but just dumplings. And then, so then I started researching on why so many restaurants and fast casual fail. And I said, number one reason is they can't meet payroll. This is before COVID. So I was in love with the automat as a kid. I love the automat. And then I started researching why the automat failed. And the automat failed in the 70s because technology failed the automat. There were no dollar bill receivers and credit card processors on these machines. You had to go get coins, hold the coins, and put the coins in. And basically, you know, it was so prehistoric.
Yeah.
As fast food was rising, people had a choice. They can go to McDonald's with a credit card, be out in 3 minutes instead of getting on change and getting food. You know, automat fell out of favor, make a long story short. Automat is gone. So I'm saying, you know, today, the kids basically live off their phone. I said, this is the cash register. Let's create a restaurant that speaks to this. It's a smartphone. I said, wouldn't it be cool if we brought back the automat, but have it controlled by your smartphone? You could say, I want to pick it up at 3 o'clock. I'm paying. I pay for the order. This is what I want. 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm picking it up. You get a QR code texted or emailed back to you. You appear at the store. You scan your phone. You're in and out in 10 seconds.
Right.
Not 4 to 6 minutes, which
It's
is
like
the
a
industry.
little locker that your food is in.
And heated and refrigerated.
I love that concept.
Yeah, and it's all controlled by your smartphone. It's funny, I just did a thing at Mertech in Vegas, like in front of 1,500 people, and Starbucks and McDonald's got up and saying, we have the latest technology in the self-ordering kiosk. Oh, we are so advanced with the self-ordering kiosk. And then I felt like such a dick. Sorry about that. So I get on next and I say, the self-ordering kiosk is my fax machine.
No, you didn't.
I did, because I already was done. I said, the self-ordering kiosk.
Stratis going to try people.
I said, the self-ordering kiosk is my fax machine. This is your cash register. The self-ordering kiosk is only good for like the 50 and overs that are still not comfortable doing complete transactions. Yeah. So people say, oh, so it's an automat. I said, it is. And they go, wow, so it's contactless. It is, but I've shifted the staff from transaction, which is a cash register, to being in the front and talking to you.
Right.
Hey, first time here? Try the chicken parm dumpling. Try the peanut butter and jelly dumpling, blah, 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 blah. So that has morphed now into 200 franchises.
Oh, wow. See, that's what I'm talking I mean, this is the best time of your life now.
Yeah.
You better thank them for pushing you out of Philippe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you might have just still,
No, it's funny. We have that conversation all the time. So when the original partners were bought out, these were friends of mine. They were bought out for a lot of money. They kept me on. It was all a scam. They started bankrupting good stores because I had PGs on them. And basically what they did was they did the unthinkable. They basically started, it was like almost like the producers. They were closing good restaurants because I was exposed and then put me into involuntary bankruptcy. And that's what they did to me in 2013. That's what kind of guys were there. So can you imagine going from making millions of dollars a year to not even being able to afford to get on a subway?
And then this full circle moment of the latest restaurant you just opened.
Yeah, so my grandfather had the first Greek restaurant from 1910 to 1975 called Pappas. So that was another COVID deal we did, and it's in 103 McDougal in the West Village. I teamed up with Chef Todd English because, again, I want to disrupt.
That's right by where Negril was, right? Negril Village, isn't that on?
It's next to Minetta Tavern.
Okay.
So what interesting enough about disrupting is I said, okay, I want to do a wood burning Greek because that's how Greek food started. Most of the Mediterranean started that way with a wood burning oven. I started speaking to the best Greek chefs in the business. I said, I want to do a wood burning Greek. When I went to my father's village in Sparta, they used to get wood before dinner. And they're like, wood burning? I don't know what you're talking about. The chefs of Avra and Milos and all these restaurants, which is right here.
Right downstairs.
They're like, I don't know what that is, So I make a long story short, I connected with Chef Todd English, who's a master at the wood burning oven. And I said, I just want a new fresh set of eyes on Greek food. And boy, oh boy, what he did is insane. Greek onion soup, Greek salad in a bottle, lamb uvetzi with figs.
Calm down, Jasmine.
I like to eat.
She loves
food. You got to see
food,
it. We figured out the best Greek salad. When they put it in a bowl and they toss it, that's not the best. A guy in Rhodes came up with a better formula. You put it in a big bottle with a cork and shake it like a cocktail. All the sauce gets thick. And all the sauce evenly distributes because after a Greek salad, you kind of mop it up with bread.
At the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, no, this goes all the way through by shaking it, and it's like it's already got like so many views online. And we are in the reaction business, right? So it's a great reaction when people see, "Would you like your Greek salad?" Well, here we go. You shake it up like a cocktail.
It's a moment.
The first
that
thing
matters.
is this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do.
If you ever need a food tester,
oh no, you're all invited. You're all invited. Actually, the opening is tonight.
Oh.
Yeah. We were on soft opening for like 10 days, and tonight's the official opening.
Okay, well, Stratis, you got to come back again because honestly, I know first of all, you're opening businesses left and right. But honestly, like just knowing you from when I first met you and how great you've been just as a person that is like owning a restaurant in this business of service, because it is a service business, it matters a lot. You've always been really amazing.
Thank you.
Every time anytime I hit him up, it could be no matter what. He could be in the Hamptons when you guys did the pop-up.
Yeah.
He'll be like, all right, Angela's taken care of.
Yeah.
I could walk in 2 minutes later and it's good. I can send people there and know that everybody's going to be like, I loved it. I had a great experience.
Tell you a funny story, very quick. So on Instagram at 3 o'clock in the morning, just 2 days ago, someone's on Brooklyn Chop House Instagram and says, hey, what is that steak? It looks amazing. I said, oh, that's the 38-ounce tomahawk. And like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You respond. So listen, but here's the best part. He goes, I'm going to tell Stratis and Pooh, you are amazing.
I love
so
it.
I'm in my pajamas like this. I fall asleep with my phone in my hand. I'm in my pajamas like this. I take a selfie and I send it to him. I'm like, he's like, no. He's like, no way.
That's hilarious.
You're answering me at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I'm going to tell Stratis and Pooh, you are amazing.
Can I just say you are a great storyteller?
Yeah, and because he's very passionate.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes to show you when you are an entrepreneur, you're very involved in your business. You know the ins and the outs. You're willing to take a risk. But just caring that much, you can see how much Stratis cares about everything that he does.
Yeah.
That's what I think is, the special touch that that is necessary to be a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You can't just say, I'm going to open a business and then step back and not care that much and not go really hard for yourself.
No, my dad brought me up saying 12 hours is a half day.
All right, well,
All right.
I don't know, Stratis.
Hold on. I don't want the heads of this iHeart listening.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. You got to Stratis. You're done.
4 is good.
We're trying to get this 4-day work week.
Yeah.
But Stratis, again, thank you so much, and much
Thanks.
love to your partners. And
Thank
Dampu is a great friend of mine too. I talk to him about business all the time.
He's a
and
genius.
Be a Disruptor is available now. And anything else that we missed?
No,
A lot.
We got through 3 of the 15
All right,
chapters.
we'll have you back.
Gotta come back.
Well, thank you, Stratis, again.
Thank you.
Appreciate
And
you.
thank you always supporting us. Thanks, Angela.
Way up with Angela Yee.
Way up.